Well, Orthodoxy in the United States is a complex phenomenon. It's one where you have overlapping groups of people who came from Europe or the Middle East, and they came at different times as well. So each group has had its own experience, and that new waves of people from those from the Middle East or from Europe have also then brought sometimes different attitudes. The attitudes that people, say the Greeks who came before the 1920s, are different than the next set of Greeks who arrived, I have also experienced in Canada, than the ones who came in the 1950s and 60s. Different attitudes actually towards music as well, because the musical culture had changed somewhat. There was the revival, beginning of the revival of Celtic music at that time. So that's why Canada has a lot more in the Greek Orthodox churches, relies primarily on chant, whereas in North America, rather is in the United States, where in the 1920s there was a lot of polyphonic singing in the churches of Athens, that you have Greek American choirs that have developed their own tradition of polyphony. So also you now have, especially in the past 30 years or so, increasing numbers of converts, people who've come to Orthodoxy from all sorts of backgrounds, some of them from evangelical Protestantism, people who started reading church history and realized, oh, this early church, it's still kind of around somehow. That's how they describe it. Other people who have come from Anglicanism, from the Episcopal Church, or other so-called mainline Protestant traditions, who look to Orthodoxy for a deeper sense of tradition. So it's actually a very complex phenomenon now, and there's a strong monastic movement in the United States, which there hadn't been for many years. So in many ways you have to look at it as in some ways not too different from some of the churches in Europe, in that there might be a broad spectrum of opinion isn't perhaps the right word, but of perspective, even within a single church, as there is, for example, in the Church of Greece, which there are a range of approaches and within that church, from very sort of conservative ones to ones that perhaps are more open in various ways to interchange with the modern society. And again, comparing that with Romania, that there is a difference when you have a kind of security in knowing that your tradition has been here for centuries, and you have the monuments, you have the physical evidence of this. You walk around, you see churches that have been here for centuries. So there's a kind of ease that sometimes, perhaps not everyone, but sometimes people in North America, that they might be a little bit more anxious about some things, about knowing where the boundaries of Orthodoxy are in some ways, as they're trying to define themselves within that wider society. So I would say that each is complex in its own way, but that sometimes some of the issues that people are concerned about are slightly different.